I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourners Woods books, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight, for the first time, I'm watching Night of the Hunter from 1955. This movie was a failure when it first came out, but history has looked back on it much more kindly. And now this movie has even made some lists of greatest films ever made. So the fact that I had never seen this horror movie until today is inexcusable. I can't justify myself. Go ahead and make fun of me in the comments. There's only so many movies even I can watch. And somehow I just never got around to watching Night of the Hunter, the 1955 Southern Gothic serial killer horror movie starring Robert Mitchum in an unforgettable performance as quote-unquote preacher Harry Powell. As soon as I watched the first 5 minutes of this movie, I immediately realized where Buffy the Vampire Slayer got the idea for the character of Caleb. The character played by Robert Mitchum in this film, Harry Powell, is a serial killer with a religious fixation. He likes to go around posing as a preacher, but he's not really an authorized preacher of any church or denomination. He just calls himself a preacher. And his quote-unquote religion is just whatever he and supposedly God have decided goes. It's basically whatever he wants to do. Now, this character, Harry Powell, doesn't like women. And that's not a euphemism for saying that he likes men. I mean, he really doesn't like women. He has a violent misogynistic streak in him where just femininity is enough to trigger him and give him homicidal urges. So, of course, what he does is he lures female victims by means of Lonely Hearts ads, and he lures them, romances them, marries them, and kills them, and then takes whatever money they had. For younger viewers, you might not know what a Lonely Hearts ad was. It was the 20th century's version of dating apps. What you did was you would write a letter to the newspaper, and they would publish this in the classified ads. And it would say something like, single female, you put your age, brunette, whatever. And then you'd say, seeking man for romance, possible matrimony. And then you would put whatever your requirements were, must be, and if it's, member of a certain religion or member of a certain profession, certain age group, certain height requirement, whatever your requirement was, you would put that in there. And then if interested, respond to box such and such. And then at the newspaper office, they would have a box for that person to receive a response. And then somebody would mail it in, mail a response in. So this was how the pre-internet world did what now is handled by dating apps. It was a lot slower process. And of course, you like the internet dating apps, you never were really sure what you were going to get. That hasn't changed in 100 years. So he would answer lonely women's ads, especially lonely widows, and he would meet them, romance them in a whirlwind courtship, marry them. But remember, he didn't actually like women, so he wouldn't have any intimacy with them. That was repulsive to him because he couldn't stand women. But he would kill them and take whatever property or whatever other goodies he could before moving on to the next town. Horrifyingly, this guy was based on a real-life serial killer from the 1930s whose name was Harry Powers, who did exactly this and was hanged for it in 1932. So Night of the Hunter shows us right from the get-go that this guy is a maniac serial killer. And he's come to this town and met a widow who has two small children. She's only recently been widowed because her husband was executed for a robbery for which the money was never recovered. The money is hidden somewhere on this property. And the way that Harry knows that the money is hidden somewhere on this property is that he shared a cell with the condemned man. Now, leave it to Hollywood to not know the difference between jail and prison, okay? Jail is where you go for 30 days if you commit a lesser offense. That's what Harry was in for. Prison is where you go if you're serving more than a year, and it's a bigger, more isolated institution. And that's where this condemned man should have been, prison. But for some reason, writer's license, I guess, they're sharing a cell. So Harry finds out about this, and the father from the family is executed. And he goes and he meets and romances and marries the widow. And on their wedding night, informs her that nothing that she thinks might ordinarily happen on a wedding night is going to be happening. And instead preaches her his nonsense message. It's not a real religious message, but it's couched in religious sounding language. And he actually convinces a lot of people in town to adhere to his pseudo-religious message, which is just insanity. And the new wife that he's married falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. But of course, it's not going to end well for her. And when she meets her fate, the children have no choice but to run. This is where we get to the Night of the Hunter part of the story. The children are on the run. They've got the stolen money hidden in the little girl's doll. And the children have to escape by river, just blindly going down the river, not knowing what town they're going to reach or where they're going to settle. All that the older boy knows, he's reached the age of reason. The little girl is too little. The older boy just knows they have to get away and keep going. And sure enough, crazy old Robert Mitchum, crazy Harry Powell, is following them to the new town. The children fall in with a sort of a makeshift orphanage where they find a potential new home. But of course, crazy preacher Harry Powell finds them in no time and is staking out the house that he's going to come in and get them when they're all asleep. That's where we get to the Night of the Hunter part of this. Visually, it's really good. It's stunning. This was the only film, by the way, directed by Charles Laughton, who had played the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's great to look at, and it has a great Southern Gothic feel to it. And Robert Mitchum's performance is intense and very creepy, really creepy. The story doesn't completely make sense. There are a few things in the story that I just couldn't swallow. And because I'm a writer, I tend to look at movies from a story perspective, and there were some things I just didn't care for. I mostly didn't like the segment when they got to the new town and settled into the orphanage. I stopped my suspended state of disbelief then. So I wouldn't put this on a list of greatest horror movies. I'm sorry to those who would. But it is good, though. And would I recommend it? Yes. And this is a piece of Hollywood history. The Robert Mitchum performance alone makes this movie worth watching. Listen, if you're a fan of classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourners Woods books, for sale on Amazon. My name again is Paul Edwards. Thanks for letting me talk to you about Night of the Hunter. I'll meet you in Mourners Woods.